In business, I have always disliked market research. The idea of diving into and knowing who my competition is felt like a waste of time and energy, mainly because those exercises always seemed to dilute my creative expression, diminish my unique perspective, and generally send me into shame spirals of shoulds, feelings of not enoughness, and ultimately imposter syndrome. I've squandered so many ideas and opportunities inside of the comparison that breeds competition. But I finally learned how to dial down the noise with the creation of the Grand Rising experience, primarily because I am dedicated to embodying the understanding that there is no traffic when I stay in my own lane, and what is for me won't miss me. If I look back over my life, whether it's relationships, friendships, business, any time I've entered into competition, I have inherently self-betrayed. Competition is an illusion designed to harvest your attention and place it on everyone and everything but what you claim you want to create. It exposes a fragility within that conjures rivals who in turn motivate you through a lens of lack or grandiosity, ultimately revealing where you are dishonest, in denial, out of alignment, and do not trust yourself. It's a very agitating statement. And I say this because we have to remember that words are spells which can empower or disempower. How we talk to ourselves matters because intent forms the focus of our attention. So what does this mean? If we look at the word compete, the definition of compete is to strive against another or others to attain a goal such as an advantage or victory. And the definition of strive is to exert much force or energy, to struggle or fight forcefully. So if we pull that all together, to be in competition or to compete means to struggle and exert much effort or energy against another to gain an advantage or victory. On that basis, and in my opinion, competition not only highlights a lack and scarcity mindset, it reveals the cracks and dissonance that is keeping us out of purpose, off mission, and out of integrity with the Most High. And it is a very cleverly, socially engineered concept that hits at our deepest wounds. Even a sense of competition with self is an invitation to observe the underlying factors motivating those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Who is driving that ship? Is it the shadowy ego or the integrated higher mind? Are you seeking victory over another or mastery over self? And the big question, are you willing to be honest enough with yourself to explore your way through it? This is where we have to look at and ask ourselves, is what I'm creating in my life a reaction to external stories or a response to the intuitive wisdom that is asking to be birthed through me? And you must know thyself to know the difference. On the flip side, what if you feel like someone is trying to compete with you? What does that mean? For me, that's an invitation to halt and observe the lesson so it can be revealed, healed, and dissolved. Am I willing to witness the energetic contract that is seeking to be validated and formalized through my acknowledgement of it, and instead choose to stand inside of my agreements and therefore my higher claim? Internal agreements become our external contracts and determine what story we tether our potential to. So what opportunities and relationships are being repelled, and what gifts are being selfishly hoarded and hidden from the world inside of a competition mindset? This is where I'm asking you, where are you playing small, hiding, and not standing in your full power and purpose? What misalignments are seeking integration? and therefore transformation. So in this episode, I put my money where my mouth is when it comes to seeking collaboration over competition, so I can introduce you to a woman with a vision to create a global movement and safe professional community for the evolution of the new purpose-driven, soul-aligned professional. She is committed to building alliances, strengthening mindset, and repairing the world collaboratively. Oh, it just speaks to my soul. Camille Miller is a business strategist for purpose-driven entrepreneurs who want to create a massively profitable business while operating from a place of authenticity. Her work has shown incredible results with strategic direction and clearing limiting beliefs that block success. She pioneered the soul professional movement and founded a business incubator for highly successful, high vibrational entrepreneurs. She's also a 2-time best-selling author and international speaker on the role of soul in business. So if you are a business owner, a creative, someone with an idea that is just burning inside of you, but you feel like you cannot birth it into the world using the systems and structures that are being presented to you on a regular basis, this episode is for you. And if you leave this episode going, I need the medicine that Camille is serving, all of her information and ways you connect with her will be in the show notes. As always, if you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, and review the Grand Rising Experience wherever you're listening. And better yet, you can head over to grandrisingexperience.substack.com and subscribe to be the first to know when a new episode or article drops. What I love most about Substack is that you can access all the content and manage your subscription from your inbox. Because honestly, who needs another app on their phone right now? Your engagement with this content truly helps to ensure that these valuable conversations and stories find those who need to hear them. And that's what makes my heart so freaking happy. You can also head to NicoleConnor.com to learn more about the Portal membership and any upcoming summits that you will be able to attend both virtually or in person. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. Let's dive in. If someone was to navigate to the soulprofessional.com and read your website and then go to my website and look at what I have written about the portal, they'd be like, Nicole, why are you interviewing someone by all intents and purposes who has a business that looks like it could be in competition with yours? And that is, I believe, kind of underpinning what this new paradigm of business looks like, because we're moving away from competition and into collaboration. So that's why one of the reasons why I thought it was really important that we sit down and have a conversation, because it's similar but completely different. We're on two different trajectories, two different areas of our path. Like, you're many years into this, I'm brand new, and I think it's important for people to see us come together and have these types of conversations to see how we can support each other in doing similar things.
Absolutely.
Tell me about Soul Professionals.
So it started more, well, my background is in not-for-profit management, right? And it was in that role that it was in my last role, actually. I was CEO for an organic farming organization, and I got to bring my whole self to work, right? And for the very first time, I realized that I was playing a role of a professional, right? I was playing this role of what people thought I should be, because in that role, people were like, stop wearing suits. And that's why I actually went curly. Like, stop wearing suits, just be you. Like, and I had to kind of relax, right? And then I realized that these were really my people. And I was in that role for years, but I got to meet so many people from so many walks of lives, the doctors, the lawyers, the coaches, the scientists, that were just eating organic food, because that was my lane. And when that job was defunded in 2015, I was like, okay, what's next for me? And realized that money was no longer my motivator. I really wanted to impact the world, and I wanted to help other people build their dream businesses and bring them to the world, because I felt so many people were playing small. So many people weren't being who they authentically are. They were kind of hiding behind this mask and this role of being who we should be, who we were taught to be. And that's what kind of launched this entire brand. We were very different 8 years ago than we are today. I shouldn't say very different. The premise was always exactly the same, but we've kind of had, which you'll learn as you build your community, ups and downs of, I want to go in this direction, this doesn't really feel good, or I draw people more in this way, or these are the people that are giving back. So it's kind of had these ups and downs. Now we are exactly where we need to be. We are completely virtual, although some areas do meet in person. We have members in over 12 countries, and we're coming together for those bigger conversations about the paradigm shift. What is next? How do you bring your entire self to this world? And I think anyone can be massively profitable, but it takes a good mindset to be there. So it's really about the mindset work, your self-talk, all of these other things that I didn't learn in business school, right? When I went to business school, they taught me about Disney, they taught me about McDonald's, they taught me about these big CEO positions. And although your numbers and all are important, and understanding finance is important, I do teach what we call a 6-figure soul boot camp, which is a lot about finance, how to run a company, management strategy, but it's also mindset. It's also what I call financial abundance, and believing that you can do it is half the work, right? And teaching yourself to recognize when you're feeling like you're in that grit, right? And I feel like I grew up learning that you just have to work harder, work harder, work harder. And that's really not what it's about. So for a soul professional, we say they live in a higher vibration. They have an alternative approach to business, and they're here to help repair the world. And those are my people. Recently, someone asked locally, not one of my people, just asked, what is it you do? And I was like, okay, how am I going to say this? And I said, hey, I do business. And they knew me from a different world. So I said, I do business strategy work for people that walk to a different drum beat. And he was like, oh, and I was like, and then I own this professional community because, I'm their leader. And he just laughed. He went, oh my God, that's so you. Like, and I was like, maybe I should say that, because that's what he resonated with it so well. And he knows me as a person, and he knew me in my professional life. And that's, I just loved it. I just loved it. So really, we just wanted to give people a really safe space to be exactly who they are, and to be very proud of creating money and building wealth, because I don't believe that you can create impact without building wealth.
Oh, you hit so many different elements there in that entire background story, because when you were working for the nonprofit and you were coming into these professionals in all of these different spheres and sectors, were you noticing that they were also unlayering, much like you were? Like, as you were dropping your corporate personage, did you notice that the lawyers weren't as perhaps rigid, or was that showing up for you?
I noticed that I attract these type of people, right? So I always say that I'm a blend of logical and spiritual, right? I'm a very logical person. I really am. So I work really well with the doctors, the lawyers, the CPAs, and the people that aren't looked at as being perfect, soulful, right? So when I attract those people, it's easy to work with them. Like, I actually have a great client story. I had an attorney that came to me that was a real estate attorney that I had even used, right? The same attorney that helped me build out this business, or create the LLC and everything when I first started doing it. And she came to me one time and she's like, I'm just not happy. Like, I love law and love what I do, but I went to school for environmental science. Like, I really want to be in the soils and preserve stuff. And I was like, so then do that. Like, why are you not doing that? And it was just like, what do you mean? And after some conversations, I was like, well, let me see your business card. Let me see how you advertise. And it was very clear that even though she was in real estate and she did business law and some other things too, and I said, it's not clear. You're attracting who you're asking for, right? And that's how you're known. I said, start moving into like farm work, organic farm work, environmental. It's all real estate. And now, at least in this area, she's a very big, well-known attorney for microbreweries or organic farms that are either doing events and other things, but they have a lot of environmental concerns, right? Of, if you're doing weddings all of a sudden at your farm or at your brewery, it's a much different legal battle, I should say, as what's allowed on farms now. So she works a lot in farms. So it was really just a mind shift change of this is who you need to do and attract. And she's in a place where she's absolutely loving her work, right? I've had doctors that have come to me and just says, I just believe now after learning that there's more to the alternative track than we can give them in the Western track. And I don't know what to do. Right. So it's literally sitting down, having those conversations and being, well, what does your ultimate dream look like? Like, how would you see this world? And then when they explained it, I was like, okay, now let's create your business. And just making those changes, because it's already in their genius. Everyone has a genius. It's just, how do you bring it to the world? Because you can only attract who you are. You will absolutely attract exactly who you need all the time if you're authentic. It's when you're not authentic that you can't attract people, because you're lying about who you are.
That is such an important conversation to be having right now, because trying to bridge wealth and spirituality is incredibly different. Like, it's difficult. And I resonate with what you're saying, where I am incredibly logical and I'm very strategic, but I have this very soulful aspect to me, as we all do, but I'm tapped into it. And I've always been that kind of square peg in a round hole inside of the corporate arena. And I don't think anyone who knew me would be surprised I'd be here, maybe from like a spiritual context, but I never fit. I never fit, but I can speak the language and I understand the dynamics in those spaces. And for me, one of the responsibilities that I feel that I have in this world, one of the obligations I feel that I have in this world, is because I can see the bridging of the soul and the civil, how our internal agreements create our external contracts, which really governs how our entire commercial system works, that I kind of have this obligation to share that information, to take the information that I learn from commerce and in these commercial spaces and give it a different context and language so that we can start to internalize that information differently, that we can start to rewrite the agreements that are creating the things that are in discordance and disharmony in the environments that we're in, and then show up in them differently. It's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, we still live in this world that has a specific construct to it that we need to understand how to navigate. And I find when I've gone too spiritual and into communities that are very spiritual, it's very airy fairy and it's a little ungrounded. It's lacking a lot of grounding. The way to a new way of being is layers. It needs to be bridged from the old. So what I see you doing is creating the bridge, giving people the space to hold on to the talents and the skills that they have, that they've invested their sweat equity into, that they may still really love the aspects of. Show them how to show up in it a little differently. And I think it's needed, it's important, and it's how the new gets constructed. It's not that one gets burned down and a new one gets created. We ease into it, we transition into it.
You're just getting better.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And it is that mindset, as you were saying, when we tend to reject the commercial, it can really affect our money mindset and how we think money is to be obtained. Because when you look at how money tends to get accrued in more commercial spaces, it can feel unethical, immoral, can feel dirty. And then we tend to take that with us into the more spiritual work that we do, the more soulful work that we do, and then not want to charge for our gifts, which does us a huge disservice and prevents us from actually being able to share those gifts in the world.
Absolutely.
So how do you handle that both with your clients and inside of your community? Because that is, I think, the biggest hurdle that we end up finding within like the wounded healer space.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of mindset work. And we still have people that show up in the community and say, like, I don't like the way you always talk about wealth. And I'm like, it's okay. Your definition of success is different than my definition of success. And we can both share this spiritual space and you just be you, right? But people that hire me or are coming in are more the higher achievers. They've come out of corporate roles making a good amount of money, and they understand that they need to get back there to have the lifestyle that they want. So I did play a lot in the beginning in those wounded healer spaces and just realized it's a tough place for us both to be, right? Because I always saw a bigger picture and I wanted so much more for people that I can't help those that are still wounded. And I'm not a coach in that way, right? I'm a strategic planner. I can give you the blueprint you need to get where you want to go, but I'm not coaching you through it, right? There is a little bit of what I do in my psyche work, and I only do the one modality, but it's usually for high achievers that have already committed to that next step. But for the people that aren't there yet, for those wounded healers that say, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I don't want to charge for my gifts, they still are in this space of all of this. They still have all of that inner work to do, right? And there's some fabulous coaches and people and programs and so many things that you can do to get in it. But you first have to believe that you are worthy, right? You first have to believe that it is your birthright. Right? You first have to understand that there is a higher timeline that you can jump to if you choose to, that the universe provides for all of us all the time exactly what we ask for. So you are asking for wherever you are in a life, look around and say, I asked for all of this. And people might be like, no, I didn't. But if at any moment you can't dream of something bigger, or as soon as you dream of it, you go, well, how am I going to do that? You're blocking it. That's knowing that you have a limiting belief. It's knowing it, that it's already there, right? I was literally doing an exercise last night with a coach on TikTok. I have this new thing now that I scroll through TikTok really quick and a message will stop that I'm supposed to hear. So I do it every night. It's like really weird. But I ended up getting this coach. She's actually a lawyer. She's not actually a coach, she's a lawyer, but she talks so brilliantly about what you deserve in life, if it's love, if it's money, if it's whatever it is. And she was doing this really quick, like, picture yourself with $10 million, right? Like, and she had us close her eyes and do this like the whole thing. And I'm like, $10 million. And she's like, if the first thing you thought about, like, how am I ever going to have $10 million? Like, this is ridiculous. You already blocked it. Right. And it was like, okay, so clearly I have a block at 10 million because that's like, this is a ridiculous exercise. Like, why would I think I have $10 million in the bank? Like, my business would never be $10 million. Right. And that was the whole point of the exercise, to say, you're blocking it. Right. So, but people do that at like 10,000 a month and 20,000 a month. We find that there's a block getting to 100,000, and there's a block once you hit 250. That's a big block for people. It's called the 250 crisis, and people hit it and they just can't get over it. They just can't even get to 300. Like, there's this big block around 250. And then we see it show up again around right before $1 million. Like I say, it's like 800, 900. I have so many clients that they stop, like, they can't see themselves hitting $1 million a year, and they plateau at like 800 or 900,000. It's really interesting.
That's really interesting. Have you found any common threads
It's
as to
self-worth.
why people?
It's self-worth at every level. At every single level, people don't think they're worthy. And that's a deep-rooted thing. They're not saying that outwardly, right? Because they've done a lot of work to get to that point.
Yeah.
but it's
And
this bigger, and I find it in myself too, right? So I always have this imposter syndrome, and it was another coach that said, look at your personal life. You have a damn good personal life, and you literally manifest things all day long. And I'm like, I never looked at it that way. She's like, so you have a block to get where you want to go in your business. She's like, because it's clearly obvious in your personal life it doesn't happen. And she goes, so that's an impossibility with the way energy works, right? She's like, so you feel very free and very open to everything you want in your personal life. So something is blocking you, right? And once that was brought out, I was like, okay, I really got to start to meditate, and I really got to see, where is that fear? What is blocking me? You know, and there were still some threads in there about being authentic and me and being okay with it and playing on a bigger field. And so at every single level, you keep hitting it.
Anyone who's working like a 9 to 5 would understand what you're saying in terms of salary. And when it comes to negotiating salary and what we believe we can make. And that usually comes because there are these external factors that tell us what we're worth. I found that in my corporate job, moving from 5 figures into 6 figures, and the conversations that were being had around me by the people that were giving me that money as to what I was and was not deserving of, based on pieces of paper that ultimately actually did not govern how I did my job, which was really interesting.
Exactly.
And that created a certain level of imposter syndrome in myself that led me into burnout, because they're sitting there telling me I don't have the goods to do this job, even though I'm doing it really freaking well. And so I'm working myself into the bone twice as hard as everyone else to prove that I'm worthy of that. And you can see where that starts to pop up, like you said, in all areas of life. And then when you kind of work through that block, it's like, it's fine. But then you start looking at the relationships that you're attracting and how you're being valued inside of those. And then the other types of abundance, how you receive compliments, how you receive praise on your work, even with the people that are showing up in front of you. I remember having an aha moment going, oh my gosh, how am I in this room? Like, I'm sitting around a table with people that are making like $50 million bonuses. Like, what am I doing? Or why am I having these conversations? Feeling the chip that's been placed on me, instead of understanding that I'm there because, as you said, you attract who you are. There were parts of me that were resonating inside of them that put us on an equal playing field.
Yes.
And so it's so interesting to be able to find your way through that and navigate through it. I'm in the middle of it now, trying to figure it out, but it's I think it's part of the work that we're all here to do, because it comes down to, who are you? Can you claim and embody the truth of who you are? Can you truly step into the magnificence of that and claim the value of that from the inside out, without having these external factors? And as long as we're thinking about money, we're still kind of reaching for that external validation that mirrors the worth we feel that we have. But as we were saying earlier, we still live in this world. We still have to find ways to navigate and live inside of this space that does require money and does require us to have this exchange of dollars to ensure that we can maintain some of our deeper wounds of security, so that we don't disrupt those and regress instead of continue to grow.
Yeah.
Which becomes
I think it's so important, like you were describing, to surround yourself with people that you expect to be, right? You should be the lowest one in the room. Like, you want to surround yourself with success. You want to surround yourself with others that are where you want to be, either spiritually, mentally, financially, like whatever it is of why those people are in your circle. It's very important to be there, right? And if you're lucky enough to be in the circle, just like you were questioning, why am I in that circle? You have to dig deep for your self-worth to say, I belong here, right? I belong here. I was invited here. I'm supposed to be. It's not like you broke down the door, right? I'm supposed to be here. So what can I find that matches other people, right? So you validate why you're there, but in a good way. So we find that, I always say, people that hang out in free groups, right? Or they don't invest in whatever they're supposed to be investing in, right? They don't invest in themselves. They're like, when I crawl out of this, when I'm out of debt, when I'm have the money, I'll invest in you. When I, and that when never comes because they're staying in the mentality of, let me see what I can get for free. Let me see what I can get for free. And that's who they're hanging out with, right? So there's no role model that they're looking up to. And if they are, it's probably on social media and they're saying, well, I can't be that person yet. Right. And that's what they're embodying, because they're believing I'm not that person. So I'm going to stay here in the free group and just kind of fish around. And I hear all the time, no one's buying my stuff. I can't do this. I can't sell this. And I'm like, shouting your stuff from a mountaintop is not called marketing. And if you're talking about it with a lot of free people that aren't spending money, they're not spending money on you either. So it's spending. And that's why, like, people that are running multi-million-dollar businesses, and I mean multi 50 million, 100 million, they're paying $50,000 a year to be in rooms with other people. That's why there's country clubs. That's why there's yacht clubs. That's why they want to be with their people, because that's where you hear what you need to hear. Right? It could be a business deal. It could be this is on sale. It could be like, no matter what it is, those conversations are happening at the level that you need to be at. Right? So when you're with high achieving people, even a level above you, you're going to hear a conversation. You're going to hear what coach they hired, what class they took, what program they went through, a mistake that they made. That's a big one, right? That's a mistake. Like the mastermind we have, it's called our inner circle that we have. I hear from other people. I'm a student there as much as I am a facilitator. And I hear mistakes, or if I was like, I don't know how to do this, I'll hear from people that fixed it in their company. And I'll be like, oh, let me just go do that. That's so much easier, right? If I have HR problems or whatever it is, I need to be in a circle of people that hear. I remember one time I was actually really nervous because I was running out of money as I was paying for big marketing, big everything. And I was talking to this guy that had a multi-million, like ridiculous amount. And he went, it's just a cash flow problem. It'll all work out. And I was like, okay, I needed to hear that all businesses just have cash flow problems when they're starting to scale, right? And scaling is very scary for a lot of people. And that's why a lot of people don't scale, is because it takes a lot of cash and it takes a lot of risk. But it's a calculated risk, and that's what you have to take. So yeah.
Yeah. When we first met, we had that conversation about what should be free and what should not be free, and how you can get trapped in that money mindset by offering something for free. And it's interesting because, like, the greatest thieves in the world know how to steal your time and your attention. So, right? So if you're just constantly, that's what social media does. So, I mean, if you're constantly just giving things out for free, sure, you're getting paid maybe in time and attention, but it's pay your bills. And
Yeah.
you just have to look to Costco to know you can't go look at what they have without paying. You can't get through the front door without a membership, right? So you have to put at least a minimum baseline value on what it is that you're offering, and not think that just because people can't see what you're doing, that they're not willing to see your value. Like, sure, put out some emails, do podcasts, have conversations that people can publicly hear to be able to kind of understand the essence of who you are, because people also buy from you, not necessarily what it is that you have to offer. Because if there's a misalignment or incongruence between who you are showing up as versus what you're offering, people are going to sniff that out pretty quickly. And I feel that usually tends to happen in the free space. Usually there's a misalignment that is preventing someone from charging, sometimes for their offer. And it's interesting what you were saying about the cash flow problem, because something that I've been kind of ruminating on the past couple of days is kind of the idea of nutrition, but like at a very macro level, and what that looks like, and the process that we go through, because what you ingest, you express. So everything we're taking in all the time is always what we're putting out. So what does that look like? Because you're going through digestion, absorption, circulation, elimination. So where are things getting stuck in the body? Where are things moving out? And we can look at that with cash flow. And we can look at that with our wealth, and how we are bringing in that monetary abundance, but also how we're bringing in the value that comes in knowledge as well. Like you said, it might not have an upfront return, but it could pay you dividends maybe 6 months down the road if you're in the room with the right people, absorbing the information
Absolutely.
that they're sharing with you, and then putting it into action, being able to take it and then see if what they're saying works for you. And if it doesn't, then just leave it. Maybe you come back to it 6 months later. Maybe it hits differently down the
Mhm.
road. But being in those spaces to absorb that kind of knowledge is invaluable. It's
Agreed.
invaluable, but yet we always look to put the dollar value on it because there usually is one attached to the space, but that's your membership to Costco. That's just to
Yeah.
get through the front door.
I love that. Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely agreed. Yeah. You have to hang around the right people. And it's not always that the way they did it will work for you. It's understanding and studying success. I learned that from Tony Robbins back in the 90s. Like, just study success, study successful people, study successful models, and take a little bit of each of it, right? I don't do everything I was taught in business school because it's not in alignment for me, right? And I watch other people's models and say, well, I don't like that, but I do like this. And that's what I create. And that's how I created my community. People are like, this is so unique. And I'm like, yeah, because I took aspects that I liked of different things, and this is what I like. And when it doesn't serve me, I let it go, right? A real entrepreneur is able to pivot right away.
Yeah.
You're not
No, that's
stuck in a
incredible.
job.
That's important. And from like a wealth mindset, that's the idea of like behind bankruptcy. Multimillionaires and billionaires, they don't care if they go bankrupt. They
Right.
understand that as like, oh, that's a liability that I just need to let go of.
Yep.
And I think that's a mindset that we don't adopt easily, because there's usually a lot of shame behind it as to why something potentially failed or why it didn't work. But
Yeah.
if we can kind of detach from that and go, okay, this is more of a liability than it is an asset, I think it's just time to let it go and move
Yeah.
on. But I think part of it is how much of our identity has been constructed around what it is that we're doing. And when it's not of us, when there's a misalignment between what you're doing and versus who you be, those attachments can keep us stuck and stagnant in
Absolutely.
spaces that we're growing out of.
Absolutely. And I think growing out of is a really, really important word, because who you were 5 years ago, like if you have a long-term business or you're a coach or consultant, doesn't matter what you do, who you were 5 years ago is not who you are today. I don't care what you do. You are better and more established and smarter, and you need to charge more, and you need to go for a level higher. I always say your ideal client is who you were 2 years ago, right? So you have to keep shifting, right? When I started our community, I went towards the wounded healer. I went towards people searching for what is their next step, because I was searching for my next step. I wasn't sure where I was landing, right? And I was kind of building, and I attracted people that were building, right? But as I grew and started to get income, then I started to teach that stuff, right? How do you sustain yourself? What do you have to change out? What doesn't serve you, right? And then as I got into the higher numbers, I needed to surround myself with other people that were doing the same thing, right? So then I created the next level. And I still support other people. I just do it in a different way. Right now I have the free level, so I don't spend a lot of time doing that. But we have it so people can meet each other and do what they need to. And as they're ready, they can move up. Right. But I had to let go of that because it didn't serve me anymore.
Have you noticed? I've noticed it in myself. It's sometimes we enter something with such a huge vision
Yeah.
of where we want to go that it prevents that ability to pivot in the moment when we have to, because it wasn't part of the plan. It wasn't part of the trajectory that we thought we had for ourselves. But it's that battle of, can you live in the present and not be controlled by the past and some of the perceptions and projections that we're creating, so that we're not too far in the future, but we still need to have goals and aspirations that we reach towards to continue on that upward trajectory. How do you balance that?
So I'm not a big fan of long-term business plans. Like concrete numbers, that kind of thing. I don't even do it. But with myself and clients, I always hang in that ultimate dream. What does the ultimate dream look like? Right? My ultimate dream was always to live in Italy. I'm not going to live in Italy now, for a number of reasons, but I do want to travel. Right. I wanted the job that was virtual, that gave me all the flexibility. So my dream pivoted as I've learned, as I started to travel. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need a home base. I'm not going to be a nomad at my age. Right. So, but as you pivot, or as you refine, I should say, as you redefine what that ultimate dream is for you, because you are growing. That's why I don't have a business plan, because it has to change and grow with me. Right. So I'll do a little out. But in this space, because I'm in this huge growth right now, like crazy, both spiritually, personally, business wise, like there are so many things happening because I chose to move. And once I started to move, all the energy started to shift and things are shifting for me. But I wake up every morning now and I have a very different outlook. Well, I've always been spiritual. And I'm just like, I'm really excited to see, what universe has in store for me today, right? Because universe will provide exactly what I need. And I don't have to worry anymore, because it will come. Everything will come to me. And just knowing that it may not come the way I've planned, so I'm not planning anymore. I don't have to plan like I need this many students at this many thing, because I could have 2 students and one of them could tell 50 more people and the next class is 50. You know what I'm saying? And not to set out how that looks like. Because even as I grow, this was literally my thought this morning. I'll share this with you. I was getting ready for my day, and I do a lot of mindset work as I get ready for my day. And I had just done that 10 million thing last night. So this morning I woke up and I was like, what is that block for me? And I meditated on it this morning. Like, why did I feel I couldn't hit 10 million? Like, because I don't have a plan of how to hit 10 million. Right. And I'm like, could what I do get me 10 million? Can my company produce 10 million? Like, where am I stuck here? And then I was like, well, you're a strategist, you're a coach, you've never run a $10 million company. Like, how could you do that? So as I started to work through it, I was like, neither did Tony Robbins when he started, right? Neither did Brene Brown when she started. Neither did Mel Robbins when they started. And they're the same coach you are. They're literally doing the exact same thing you are. Right? So like, then I have validation, right? And I also have people in the world that have done what I'm doing and have done it to the scale that I'm talking about. So I'm like, who am I to say I can't if universe can create that? And I don't have to worry. I don't have to plan. I don't have to say it's this year, it's next year, because universe is going to bring it to me. And it's not unreasonable for any of it to happen. So stop it. Saying to myself, just stop it. Because we have proof that people have done it. So you will not be the first. And people will grow up not knowing your name. And that's all okay, because it hasn't hurt any of them. Right. So it's kind of just knowing that. So I had to work through that. That was my morning work through in my head. Like, why do you think that is not a thing? So when there's proof in the world that other people have done that.
That's
right. So the big names that we know are doing exactly what I do. I just do it smaller.
That's incredibly powerful. And it highlights the importance of asking why and allowing your curiosity to guide you through that process. And even then, you just said, like, I do it smaller. It's like, but do you? How do you measure size?
I should say I do it smaller now.
When we look at impact too, right? So it's all on our metrics, like you said, and how we choose to evaluate what brings us the abundance that we're seeking. We are stuck in a culture that's looking at like clicks and likes and views and amount. Like we tend to look for more. I'm finding far more success in like the direct one-to-one,
Smaller, me too.
and the smaller, right? Word of mouth. Like when we look at kind of global marketing, it's become so unreliable and people have been hoodwinked by so much of it that they're
Yes,
incredibly
agreed.
distrustful of what they're just
Yep.
seeing in the external world, what they're seeing on social media. To get a real world referral from someone means far more to me, and it holds far more value
Yeah.
than something that may just come through a click through the internet. So I think that's also incredibly important, because the people who have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, very rarely does their bank account reflect that kind of success. And
Yeah.
it's the people that maybe put out a little bit of work for free, have found a really good in-between space to either create a course or an offering that's at a reasonable amount of money that's accessible to most people, and then really value their time to be able to do perhaps the one-to-one work where they're offering all of themselves, very
Yes.
focused, for a high amount of money,
Yeah.
because it's valued at that point. And you don't need a lot of clients to reach some of those thresholds, right? There are people that are making $2, $3, $4, $500,000 servicing 20 clients a year.
Yep. Yep. It's way easier than you think, but
Yep.
it's also, you know, believing that you can do it. And I think that's what I had to work through, but I've worked through it at every different level. And now that I'm pivoting and kind of going back, I'm like, and I have found that almost all of my work, I would say like 95% of my work comes from word of mouth. And I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Google ads and websites. And every time I come back, I go, every year I can track every client I had, and I went word of mouth. Like, it was crazy. Yesterday I have a free networking group, and I asked how many people were here for the first time. And it was maybe 40% were there for the first time. I was shocked, especially for August. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, how did you find out about us? And everyone was referred by someone else in that group. And I'm like, no one came from a Google ad. No one came from an internet search. No. And I'm like, okay. And now, for everyone out there, right? It's just knowing the process and getting the process down that works, right? So it's our personal funnel, right? I get on phones with people, I send personal notes to people, but it's genuine, right? I like it better that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We met through an introduction,
Yeah.
right? Just a soft
That's why I
email.
made everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a soft email saying, hey, you two should connect because I think you might have something to talk about. And lo and behold, we did. And I love that you said that, because when I was saying earlier, like, the people who know how to steal your time and attention, like, they're the greatest thieves of the world. That is the Google ads, the Facebook ads. They are pulling us into the rat race of the algorithm to try and take all of our time, putting it into the marketing to try and assume what the algorithm is, how it's going to bring us there, when you could use that time, like you said,
Yeah.
to make a couple phone calls or send a couple emails and get a higher return on your dollar,
Yeah.
for that time spent.
And you, well, I would say my clients, for most of the people listening, my clients are attracted the way I'm attracted. So if something wouldn't have pulled my attention, it's not going to pull my client's attention. So I spent thousands of dollars last year on Instagram, right? All this Instagram, blah, blah, blah. And we have all these followers and all these great programs, and it looked wonderful. No one's ever come from Instagram. No one. And you know what? I don't even have an Instagram account. So if I wouldn't have been attracted that, my people aren't going to be attracted that. So it's really going back to basics and just saying, I've built personal relationships my entire life, my entire career, even in corporate, even in not-for-profit. It was all word of mouth. People said, I heard you might be free, or I heard you were really good. Will you come over here? You know, that's how I've gotten all of my work all of the time. So I'm like, why would I not be that person now? So I'm in that kind of shift right now of going back to being the face of everything. For so long, I was not the face of everything for like 2 years. And I'm like, I'm going back. Like, I'm going back to the face. I'm going back to smaller consulting work. What I mean small, it's like more one-on-one, because I did a lot of group work in the community, which I like, but I couldn't go deep. And that's where I'm pivoting right now. I love these deeper personal relationships where I'm really watching someone grow. That's what I love to do. That's my gem. That's my genius. And yeah, so it is a matter of pivoting back.
I love to hear that. And a lot of people get burnt out from the one-on-one work because you're not charging your value and you have to do so much of it to hit a certain threshold. So it's like you've kind of come full circle on this.
Right. So that was one of the reasons I stopped completely. Right. And I would take a few Psych clients a year. And I knew I didn't like long-term coaching because I did that. Right. And I had a client or two for a year and I hated it. And I was like, I'm done. I was like, 12 weeks is my limit that I'll work with anyone at any time. I don't care what it's for. 12 weeks is my limit. They can go away and come back, but I'm not going to continuously do that. It doesn't serve my soul. I knew for anyone that's a soul practitioner that you only have so many hours in the day. So if you're trading time for money, that's still not going to work. Right. I also like that piece, but I love group work. I love the interaction. I love learning from others. I love facilitating all of that. And that's why I have a community. Right. So now I'm doing a hybrid. I'm bringing back a 10-week class that I did in 2020. So I'm like, this was so magnificent. Why don't I just bring it back? I did it as an 8-week, but I'm bringing it back as a 10-week because I'm going to give everyone a one-on-one as part of it. Right? Because I knew that people, it brought up people's trauma around money and they couldn't always sort it out in a group. So I was like, let me do the group. Well, I'm going to offer one-on-ones for everyone. And then they could always build on that if they needed to, if there was some issues there. Right. Or you can refer them to a trauma coach, or you can do lots of things. Right. And it doesn't burn me out because I travel a lot. Right. I meet with a group once a week and I can do one-on-ones, one with everyone. Right. And I may hire what I call business intensives, like groups of maybe 5 people that I'm working with intensively. So I just have to do it the way that feels in alignment with me, what I want in my life. And that's what everyone has to do. They have to create a business that is in total alignment with their lifestyle.
Yeah. And I think what you're really highlighting right now is also the shift of kind of the coaching world, because it was originally do your one-on-one work and get your one-on-one clients. And it's like, oh, you're burning out from your one-on-one clients. Maybe you need to have a membership instead. So you go from one-to-one to one-to-many, which if you're not managing that space well and you don't have solid boundaries around those spaces, can also burn you out because then you have triple the amount of people pulling at your time and attention and your energy. Just like social media, if you've not constructed it correctly or from the right space. I love what you're doing with the hybrid because it does give you the best of both worlds where you can still meet with the smaller groups and the smaller containers energetically feel a little safer. I know for myself, like being in really large groups, it's like I'll do it, but not often. I prefer something a little smaller, a little more closed, something where I feel a little more energetically protected in those spaces because like you said, trauma comes up and you also attract who you are. So you're always going to find those like commonalities and threads inside of those containers and those groups where you're going to see many aspects of yourself in those spaces, which I also find so fascinating anytime I do group work. But I love, when do you start this program?
The 10-week program starts September 22nd and goes through Thanksgiving weekend. It's once a week. It's a hybrid, so it's a lot of online, a lot of homework. It's an intensive. But I do 2 free workshops. So people, what I call financial abundance workshops. So people can test it out, see my learning style, see if it's a good fit for them. I'm a no pressure kind of force convert person. Like if you're supposed to be with me, you'll know it. But if it does get too large, the first time I brought 32 people through it, which is quite large, especially if you're doing one-on-one work, which I was not doing in that first time. But if it gets to be that, I'm going to break off like another cohort or something like that. So it does have this container to it because that's really important. Depending on the work, when you're bringing up trauma, you have to have a safe, money's a big one. Money is a big one, and the biggest block for entrepreneurs, right? But most of the people that come that I attract are all soulful entrepreneurs. They understand the mindset work, the inner work. They've done a lot of it. They just haven't found their own blocks, which is usually around money.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that you're saying that, because I know there's a coach for, and that's why there's no competition. There's someone for everyone at every level.
Yes.
And you could be saying the same thing, but I might be meeting you 5 years behind where you're meeting people, right? So
Yes.
that's why there's no competition, there's no collaboration. That if you go to your website and go to my website and go, wow, that sounds kind of similar. It's not. It's similar
Yeah.
but different, right?
Different. Yeah, I agree.
And it's so important that people see uh, that we can sit in collaboration and support
Absolutely.
each other and understand that there's enough for everyone, because who resonates with me isn't necessarily who resonates with you, or they resonate with both of us, but at different times.
Absolutely. I'm in total agreement there. I do a program with another community leader once a month with Tyson Sharp of the Serving Circle, who's a fantastic, I don't know what his title is. I'm going to say mindset coach because I think that's what he absolutely excels in. But I don't know what his actual title is. But he's phenomenal, has phenomenal people around him. They're usually at a different level of business than my people. But I love when we come together and we actually pull soul cards once a month for our communities and we bring them together. He's also in Australia. I'm in the United States. So it's kind of bringing these continents together and all of our people. And it's so beautiful. Like, I love it. And it's small and it's a safe container. And we're not selling businesses to each other. We're just getting to know us as people, all of us. It's just a kind of a really different way of networking that, so, but I love working with other community leaders, and you never know. Like, I don't know. You never know what universe is going to bring you. And I'm not a big believer in competition at all. Like, people, whoever resonates with me, resonates with me. Whoever doesn't, that's okay too. And they may resonate with me at a point in their life, and then resonate with someone else at a point in their life. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to grow out of people.
That's a bold statement. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
We
supposed
don't
to.
we don't like to think that we outgrow people, right? And there's that old poem, like a reason, a season, a lifetime, as to why people come in and out of your life.
Yeah.
But it's some of those underlying traumas that tend to bubble up in these times of growth and pivoting, where we will stay stuck in an area because we feel that we're not allowed to grow and we're
Yeah.
not allowed to move beyond our current circumstances. So I love that you brought that up, because it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary,
Yeah.
especially as you're moving into these more soulful arenas, where you are surrounded by people that actually understand and don't take it personally for the most part, that it's time to maybe just kind of separate for a little while. And maybe that's not permanent either, but we have to allow each other the grace and the gratitude to do that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So important.
absolutely. Yeah. I think Facebook ruined that for us because you're not supposed to be connected to people all of your life.
No, I went off Facebook quite a few years ago. And
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons why
Yep.
I'm like, I don't
You're not
resonate with
supposed to be.
Yeah. It hits at those abandonment and attachment wounds that we tend to
Yeah.
have. And
hmm
it's really tricky when we understand sometimes that the world that we enter requires that we're traumatized beyond the wound in order to be able to come in and operate within the constructs of it. And it's when you start breaking out of those ideals and those paradigms that you're like, whoa, freedom. Because you said earlier, at first you kind of left the corporate arena because you're like, I want to travel and I want to do this. And I don't want to be locked into a specific place. And usually if you find yourself feeling like that, that is like liberation knocking from the inside in. And we're looking at it outside of us going, okay, like, where are the shackles? Where are the chains? Where am I feeling kind of enslaved in the external world? But that's just a deeper calling saying, like, everything you need is right in here. So how do you start creating that liberation from within so that it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you pull from the outside in, that it
Yeah.
just comes from the inside out, and it naturally creates that reality for you that feels liberated.
Agreed.
So if people want to connect with you, you have an online community, you have one-to-one work, you're the author of 2 books. What is the best way for people to kind of start getting familiar with Camille beyond this interview?
Yeah, so going to soulprofessional.com will give you all of the services, all of the free stuff that we have to offer. And that's usually the best way just to start to get acclimated to see if the community is right for them. If someone wants a business audit or to talk to me personally, you can go to soulprofessional.com/strategy, and that'll put you into a form that connects with me personally. And it'll say, where did you hear me? Because I only do that on live talks. So yeah, so it gives them a place to talk, to say where they heard me, and I will reach out to you personally and give you a talk. That's the best way.
Beautiful. And your 2 books, what will people find inside of your books?
Yeah, they're back
That's
there.
exciting.
Yeah, thank you. So one is the ultimate guide to creating a soul-aligned business. So it's all those first steps of creation. And it does tell a lot about my own story and my own things I went to. And we highlight other people that have created soul-aligned businesses and their strategies. Everyone is a story and a strategy, every chapter. And the second book, which just came out last month, is called The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Successful Soul Professional, which is really about scaling up your business and the changes you have to make from creating to getting it sustainable. So they're actually part of a 3-book series. I just signed the contract for the 3rd book, which will be The Ultimate Guide to Leaving Your Legacy. I don't know the tagline yet. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big accomplishment. To be able to kind of take everything out of our head and our heart and get it onto paper and put it into the
a
world.
long time coming. I thought it was going to be really hard to write, but then when I started to write, it just kind of flowed. And it's really funny because when I did the 2nd book, I was like, am I successful enough to write this? Right? And all of that came up, and then I just started writing, and I was like, clearly I have a lot of lessons here. Like, I went through mistakes. I outlined a lot of mistakes I made along the way. And really it was about giving yourself permission, because mistakes is a part of growing as long as you fail forward and you take the lesson from it. Right? It's part of growing. And then as I literally just signed the contract for my 3rd one. And I was like, because I was going to skip a year, and my publisher's like, don't, you're on a roll. Why would you skip a year? And I was like, I don't know if I'm leaving a legacy yet. I don't know if I'm there. And as soon as I signed it, I'm like, of course I'm there. Like, it wouldn't have come to me. The universe wouldn't have brought the opportunity to me if I wasn't able to write it. Right. So now as I'm shifting and going through all this, I was like, this is what I'm going to write about next year. How I just took everything, the success I had, and now I'm shifting it to make it so fit for who I am.
And the legacy is already there. It's inside of every person you've ever spoken to, or anyone you've ever touched, and anything you've ever created. That's your legacy. It's not something that it's being built. That's the future to come. But everything up until this point is your legacy.
Yeah, so it's your personal brand is your legacy. It's every life that you touch that says, hey, I know Camille Miller, or she hit, and how I've touched people my whole life, is actually really cool.
It is. And I don't think people think of that enough. Every time they walk out of their front door, or pick up their phone, or send an email, or leave a comment, you have no idea sometimes the depth and reach that will have on someone.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. I think this is a beautiful spot to end this particular conversation. But thank you so much for sitting down today. And I highly recommend that people join your community. I'm in there. I've been on one of your events. I have another one coming up. I really was sad I missed the one yesterday because I had another call booked at the same time. But it's beautiful to be able to be in a space with like-minded, like-hearted people that, as you said, they just want to grow and support your growth on the way there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me as your guest as well. I love the conversation.
Something I've been chewing on since recording with Camille a few weeks ago is the difference between outgrowing and growing through. Whether it's people, places, things, seasons in our life. And that comes down to perspective. Do we feel like we are outgrowing the surroundings that we're in? Or are we just giving ourselves the space and grace to grow through them and allowing others to do the same? You can head to grandrisingexperience.substack.com and head into the comments section to let me know how that landed with you and what feelings and thoughts you've been left with. Until next time, thank you so much for being here. I love you.